we like to think student journalists share the same priorities as professional journalists: deep curiosity and desire to get at the truth, even if it makes people uncomfortable. But if 2019 is any indication, it may be time to stop taking that for granted. Adam Riley has more.
When Ukraine envoy Kurt Volker resigned in September, it was big national news.
Volker helped the president's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, set up meetings with Ukrainian officials.
But that story wasn't broken by a big-name reporter. Instead, the scoop came from Andrew Howard, a junior at Arizona State.
We thought that this would be of value to our readers, and I think that that's why I want to do journalism.
That is how student journalism is supposed to work. But too often in 2019, that's not how it went down.
Harvard University's The Crimson protested on campus just for requesting a comment from ICE.
The Crimson's crime? Asking ICE for comment after student protesters said it should be abolished. The story was catnip for the conservative media and left nonpartisan journalists aghast. After the Crimson defended its reporting, editorial editor Laura Vera Ramirez resigned, accusing the paper of conforming to oppressive journalistic norms. A few weeks later, those same norms came under fire at Northwestern.
Protesters have decided to surround the building and bang on all sides here.
When former Attorney General Jeff Sessions came to campus, the student TV station and the Daily Northwestern covered the ensuing protest. But the paper later apologized for using the student directory to contact protesters and for tweeting out photos that were deemed re-traumatizing and invasive. The paper's photographer was contrite.
What I learned here is this tweet really necessary at this very moment? Is our wording correct? Are we showing any implicit biases?
But the dean of Northwestern's Medill School of Journalism struck a different note, warning that the apology sends a chilling message that we are prone to bowing to the loudest and most influential voices in our orbit. And if today's student journalists develop that habit, it'll be hard to kick later on.
We've talked about this a couple times throughout the year, but I just can't get over it. Oppressive journalistic norms. They are journalistic norms. Whether you think you're in the wrong business, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not worried for the future of journalism based on the way these young journalists, behave. I'm proud of I'm a Crimson alum. I'm proud of the way the Crimson handled itself through this. And I agree with the people who said, cut the Northwestern students some slack. They're learning. They will learn. I mean, they made a mistake, but I think that they will hopefully go on to get jobs in journalism where they'll have mentors and editors who will teach them right. My bigger concern is the way other students are behaving on campus, this perception that they have that has not really been corrected, as far as I can tell, by campus officials, that when you go to a public protest, you somehow have the right then to say, you can't take a picture of me. The idea that Crimson editorial writer put the report that someone disagreeing with her in a room was the equivalent to harming her.
Harassment.
Yeah. Someone is not teaching people sort of standards of civil and civic conduct. The problem is democracy, not journalism.
I agree with you. And, we have three of us on this panel who are involved and teach college students. I felt so bad for these students when this happened. And I felt, some shame for these administrators and faculty advisors for not sticking up for them, and saying you don't have to do this. I also look at this as just a...
What do you mean you don't have to do this?
You don't have to apologize. They should have stuck up for them. They don't have to retract their I think...
I'm
not sure they have a faculty advisor.
They wanted to.
Well, they should.
Yeah. They wanted to apologize. They thought they did something wrong.
Yeah, but I think that they should have... The faculty, if they don't have a faculty advisor, then I'm wrong on my facts. But I would just hope that they would get support from faculty and saying, you don't have to do these things. You don't have to apologize. Or don't do it. Right, or don't do it. I just think it's a symptom overall of, again, the erosion of trust in the media in this country. And it's just sad beyond belief what has gone on. And also, I think, an example, the symptom of political correctness in our culture as well.
Well, let's point out that the Harvard Crimson handled themselves in a perfectly fine manner. So we're really just talking about Northwestern here. And they were under an awful lot of pressure. They made a mistake by apologizing, and I think they realize they made a mistake now. I think that we in journalism and in the media have done a lousy job of explaining what it is we do and why to the general public. And I think college campuses are a microcosm of the general public. I think that we have not communicated to the public or to the next generation of students what it is we do and why. And they think that we're there to serve their agenda, and we need to set them straight on that, because that's not what we're there to do. Our job is to report the truth in a verified way. That's simple as that.
So I think we're assuming, or we had assumed before these things popped up, that people understood the process. So you're right.
Yeah.
Don't understand what we do and why. But I would go one step further and say how we do. How we do is tied to what we do and why. And so how we do is that if we interview, there are many sides, but certainly there are at least two. So if we're going to present this side, we're going to go talk to another one and maybe a third, because that is what the story is. So you cannot be mad because we went and called ICE. It doesn't have anything to do with whether your opposition to ICE is appropriate or not, or is the right thing to do, whatever's going on.
That's how they see it, though.
I understand that, but I'm saying, so we've not done the job of explaining what the process is. And that's easily seen in the lack of media literacy across the board, from whence they came to the spaces that they are now trying to inhabit in these journalism rooms. These are the digital natives who grew up thinking, well, if I just set up my own little blog and talk about it, that's journalism. No, it's not. There's one other thing I want to mention, which is particular to journalists of color, because there was a couple of comments or feeling like, oh my God, there's a lot of pressure, and how could I go against the rest of the community? So there's a great journalist at one point who wrote that she felt the pressure of the community, thought she went to work at the newspaper to say and represent them, and the newspaper assumed that she came to work to represent the community and cover it. And so we have to do a job, and it's happened many times with journalists of color, to say, I am not here to be your friend, and I am here to report what is going on. Now, will I bring my cultural sensitivity to a difficult situation, which is the reason why you want me in the newsroom? Yes, I will. But the reporting of the facts themselves, it has to be as it is. Then, if you would like to have another shot at that, perhaps you go to an opinion journalist and then let them have at it. Yeah. Because they can do that.
Callie, you're spot on, and I think what you're talking about sort of it goes back to the filter bubble that we were talking about earlier. People are less and less accustomed to seeing things they don't agree with. People really are able to be in this world, and I think again colleges facilitate that because classes are safe spaces. There's all this concern about not upsetting anybody.
Even the cancel culture. That's just gone crazy this year. Canceling anybody who's controversial because people don't like it.
I think it's part of what we're talking about here too. Absolutely.
But I do need to emphasize what Dan said. There are not a lot of faculty advisors in the way that you're thinking and remembering how that was covered back in the day.
These are independent organizations that are off campus in many cases, absolutely.